3 winters ago, Soviet forces conquered the German capital of Berlin. Now, with Hitler in exile, the Soviets' puppet regime rules from the Kronper. With the Soviet focus on the West, Japan has been free to continue their aggressive expansion, threatening our allies in the region. On the home front, men and women are working around the clock, producing guns, tanks, and supplies to aid the remaining free nations of Europe, while building our own forces to counter the ever-rising threat of war. Should the communists dominate Europe and Africa, and the Japanese in Asia and the Pacific, then the claws of tyranny will soon grasp for the light of American democracy. Our attempts to avoid war have proven futile. As the enemy continues to enslave the nations of the world, capturing more natural resources critical to the advancement of mankind, we must take action. The time for conflict is upon us. How long can the U.S. hope to avoid the cost of war on its shores?
There had not been a time in recent memory when any had challenged the collective might of the Commonwealth. But as conflict engulfed the world, our enemies were foolish enough to bring aggression to our coastline. And as Japanese bombs fell on our shores, the Commonwealth was already in motion to defend her people. And when we strike back, we shall do so as a united front, with allies by our side. And together, we shall find victory!
I remember why I joined the Luftwaffe in moments like this. But peace is fragile. Our objective is simple. Capture the Bosporus, imperative to advancing the Eastern Front. All that stands in our way, Greece, Bulgaria, and Turkey. Formidable enemies, each of them, but our intel ensures us they are no match for the might of the Axis forces. But I worry, I must admit. Greece held off the invading forces from Italy. Bulgaria and Turkey were witness to our defeat. What resistance might we face if all three were to unite against us at the Bosporus? I try to cherish peaceful moments like this, because all that lies ahead is war.
While the soldier bears his rifle, my war is fought with words. As a journalist, I see a different side to the conflict. Like the factory worker who builds machines to bring destruction to faraway lands they'll likely never see with their own eyes. But today, my war has brought me to Switzerland, where diplomats from Italy and Ethiopia meet. In an exchange of mere words, they will decide the fate of countless lives. The future of this war hangs in the balance. Be it peace or destruction. Today, history
Hitler
is
made good on his
being
threat of
written.
Danzig or war with a swift invasion of Poland, taking the outgunned Polish forces by surprise and forcing heavy losses. The German war machine moved quickly and carefully, displaying the detail with which the unit's movements had been planned by the Chancellor's top generals. The invading army easily overpowered its weaker neighbor, continuing the troubled history of the Polish nation. President Roosevelt condemned the aggression, while heads of state of the free nations of Europe demanded an immediate withdrawal of German forces. Europe's dark chapter of Great War may yet return to the rich continent. Will the fighting be contained to Europe, or are we at the start of a world war?
France fell more easily than expected. Defeated but unbroken, the citizens sabotage our efforts to establish order in the cities. Our plans for the wonder weapons have fallen into the hands of the resistance. The V1 and possibly the V2 projects have been compromised. But these so-called heroes of the people will be captured. We have broken their codes. The spy ring will be demolished. All resistance will be crushed.
Бабушка.
Yes, child.
Why did Mom and Papa have to leave?
For survival, my child.
Why not stay here where it's safe?
Because it is their duty. The USSR is a proud nation, but our neighbors across the border are not to be trusted. Stalin has declared the Soviet Union must be protected, no matter the cost. From the womb of Mother Russia, machines are forged to wage war in the sky, on the land, in the depths of the sea. But it is the people, the men and women of the Red Army, who pay the ultimate price when they march into certain death so that the USSR lives on.
Our nation into the modern age, and you used every opportunity to exploit us. We warned you of the Japanese imperialists, and you cowered behind your appeasements. We have been bleeding and dying in ditches for years. You haven't lifted a finger to aid us. Now, our war is your war. We stand together against the nation that threatens the continent. We will push back the invader, side by side, for now. But we will never forget the price China paid for its freedom.
country is at war with Germany.
You are about to embark upon the Great Crusade, toward which we have striven these many...
People of the Philippines, I have returned. A date which will live in infamy.
No peace in the world until the military power of Japan is destroyed.
In 2016, Paradox released the ultimate grand strategy war game. Over the years, the game has expanded, and tools of history has evolved.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen, you are about to embark upon the Great Crusade. You will bring about the destruction of the German war machine.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall never surrender. The new world, with all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue and the liberation of the old.
Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.
That we are in the preliminary stage of one of the greatest battles in history. You ask, what is our policy? I will say, it is to wage war by sea, land, and air, with all our might, and with all the strength that God can give us, to wage war against a monstrous tyranny, never surpassed in the dark and lamentable catalogue of human crime. That is our policy. You ask, what is our aim? Victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory however long and hard the road may be. For without victory there is no survival.
Europe's last free nation was swept away by a wave of tyranny. The lifeboat of democracy, lost in a storm of war. After the division of Poland, the Soviet Union's armies stayed peacefully behind their borders, while the United States, still upset over England's failed invasion of Norway, fully embraced isolationism. The Germans, emboldened by good weather and by Britain's Italian distractions in the Mediterranean, cleared the way for a direct assault, pummeling the capital with overwhelming air power as part of the most intricately coordinated assault yet seen in the war. They took the Channel within hours, establishing supply chains to support the thousands of paratroopers now on British soil. British forces fought them in the fields and in the streets. But soon, London had fallen, and with it, the sun had finally set on the British Empire. But as the sun rose on a Germany eager to stamp out the stubborn English resistance, it also rose over an envious power in the Soviet Union.
Alone we stood against fascism. Alone we drove the German invader from Stalingrad. Alone we prepare to march west. We stand on the edge of victory. But an old enemy has returned to its backstabbing ways. Japan and its puppets resist the workers' revolution in China. The rising sun is plunging its dagger into our exposed eastern lands. The Soviet Union stands alone against imperialism. We can rely on no one. We shall defeat the Japanese as we have defeated the Germans. The Soviet workers are unconquered. We are unconquerable. If we must win this next war alone, we shall do that too.
Бабушка.
Да, малыш.
А почему мама и папа ушли?
Чтобы мы выжили, малыш.
Почему они не могли остаться с нами в безопасности?
Потому что их долг. СССР – великая нация. Но нашим соседям по ту сторону границы нельзя доверять. Сталин сказал, нужно защищать Советский Союз, чего бы это ни стоило. Поэтому из чрева матушки России рождаются машины. С ними мы можем воевать в небесах, на земле и в морских глубинах. Но заплатить высшую цену придется мужчинам и женщинам, воюющим в составе Красной Армии, когда они пойдут на верную смерть.
What use is a rifle without ammunition? And what use is ammunition in the hull of a sunken ship? A good general knows there is no strategy without logistics. For what use are 2,000 fit and well-trained soldiers if they're marching in the wrong direction? Over 5 years, millions of hours of gameplay have simulated every possible outcome of the Second World War. The tides have turned in all directions, and every capital in the world have seen a victory parade. But one thing remains consistent. Not one battle was ever won without the troops, the equipment, and the support being at the right place at the right time. On D-Day this year, we want to thank our players for 5 years of excellence. Looking ahead to future victories.
People had fought a decade for their independence. Peace came at a high price, and there were few who sought to pay that price again. But the winds of war follow their own volition. What would my father say now, I wonder, when faced with a choice that will shape the very course of history? Is there such a thing as neutral? My father was a good man, but I am not my father. To lay down arms, to give in, when faced with war, is not neutrality, it is surrender. We did not fight for our freedom to surrender it now. We stand our ground.
The world remains at war. Despite my efforts, Italy's conquest continues. The troops are engaging the Allied forces on multiple fronts, whilst the engineers work tirelessly to design new warplanes, machines capable of total aerial domination to aid them in their conquest of Ethiopia.
The Ethiopian military continues to hold the invasion at bay, but for how long? I do not know. Whilst our ground forces are locked in combat,
rumors of a ceasefire spread as diplomatic talks are held in Switzerland. But if the bloodshed continues, can we truly stand by and watch? Or could our influence change the course of history? The decisions made here in the days to come
will decide the fate of our three great nations.
And many, many.
The middle powers of Europe are threatened on all sides. Fascism on one side, Bolshevism on the other. The eternal choice lies before you, death or dishonor. In this new country pack for Hearts of Iron 4, you can lead Hungary, Romania, Czechoslovakia, or Yugoslavia down unique national focus trees, carefully navigating the stormy waters of international politics. Cozy up to one of your powerful neighbors, or build a regional bulwark to stand strong against all comers. Nations lacking advanced weapons can now license equipment designs from more technologically advanced powers. Build foreign planes and tanks while you focus your nation's research on your own areas of strength. Recycle older equipment by converting it to new weapons instead of forcing it into retirement. With new musical selections and in-game art, the embers of war will be stirred into glorious flame.
By early 1942, the British Empire had entered its fourth year of the war. The Civil War had drawn away American assistance, and political turmoil had cut Britain off from the vital Mexican oil fields. The governments of Europe were exiled in London. Of all British allies, only the Free French and Dutch remained. Weakened by years of defeats, and facing a surging Japanese threat to the Far East, the year began with an act of desperation, the Federation Proclamation, unifying the empire under one government. The Japanese declaration of war followed days later. On February 27, the combined Allied Far Eastern Fleet, centered around the new Dutch battle cruisers, sortied to meet the Japanese invasion force. The Battle of the Java Sea that followed would mark the turning point of the fortunes of the Imperial.
Our nation is at a precipice, set for annihilation. Enemies far mightier than us are standing outside our gates. The German wolves are howling in the west. In the east, the Bolsheviks are biding their time, ready to strike their red daggers deep into our heartland. Ask yourself, can armor be as thick as cunning and wit? Can a pen be as sharp as a sword? Whichever path you take, history will judge you accordingly. It's time to choose. Armed or unarmed, idealism or pragmatism.
The war in Europe was coming to American shores. Enemy raiders operating out of hidden bases were wreaking havoc on the sea lanes to Europe. The U.S. Navy, weakened by resources being siphoned away to expand the Army, was ill-prepared to stop them. By summer, the U.S. was ready to take the first offensive measure to combat this threat. Operation Backflip. It led to the biggest naval battle fought in the Western Hemisphere since the first American Civil War. After months of chasing submarines and raiders around the Caribbean, they now knew where their enemy would be. They pulled together all forces at their disposal for a single, decisive battle for control of the seas. The stage was set for the Battle of the Mexican Gulf.
I share the latest news from the front line. The Red Army have been victorious in their pursuit of glory. The enemy has faltered at every turn, and now they run in fear of our unstoppable might. Armored trains transport supplies to the front lines, where the USSR and its allies launch a formidable offensive. Soviet officers lead their men through the enemy's defenses. Our army does not falter nor step back, riding titans of steel and iron, crushing the enemy beneath them. In battle, the Soviets only know victory or death. In either, the heroes of the Red Army shall be rewarded with honor and glory.
He's talking about Mama and Papa.
Yes, child. Heroes of the Red Army.
When I grow up, I want to be just like them.
No, my child. They fought so that you will never have to.
In the greatest conflict in history, no nation is an island. Unite and fight back with hearts of iron for, together for victory. Now, nations of the British Commonwealth can rewrite history with 5 unique national focus trays for Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and the British Raj. Stay loyal to the British Empire or gain sovereignty as an independent nation, allowing you to align with other powers or strike your own path. Explore new paths for all nations with technological research sharing and improved Lend-Lease, allowing allies to share information and resources in times of need. While a new autonomy system gives subject states degrees of independence from foreign masters. At a time when allies are desperately needed, will you fight the war alone, or will you stay together?
The world is burning. War rages in the skies, on land, and on the seas. And the future is as yet unknown. The German generals may choose to defy their leader and restore the Kaiser. Japan might look north towards Russia for its resources, instead of striking against China. You must make hard choices. New national decisions allow you to guide your nation through the chaos of war. Put the right general in the right place, support him with command abilities and close air support, and ensure victory. Many factions squabble for the title of ruler of China. Nationalists, communists, and warlords are preparing for the final showdown with the deposed Emperor Puyi and his Japanese masters. Only one can rule China. Will you answer the call in Heart of Iron 4?
Claude, my darling, by now you have heard that the Germans have discovered our operation, and I fear they will soon get their way. We still wait for words from our friends overseas. We tell them what we know, and yet we are starved of resources. If this is to be my last letter to you, know that I have no regrets. For I wish to be as brave as all those who have gone before me. All those who fought for France. Be brave, mon amour. Vive la résistance.
2016, Paradox released the ultimate grand strategy wargame, challenging you to prepare and lead a nation through the greatest conflict in human history. Over the years, the game expanded and the tools of history have evolved. Together for Victory lets you direct the course of the Imperial Dominions, choosing the usual path of loyalty to the Crown or a path to total independence. Death or dishonor pose the greatest challenge so far. Lead Central Europe's minor nations, trapped between three armed camps, seeking a safe destiny amid fiery tumult. Waking the Tiger focused on China's life or death struggle for unity against the imperial might of Japan, with new options to control even greater armies. Man the Guns let you rewrite the history of the great democracies and customize your war fleets. You have rewritten the past countless times over 3 years. What comes next? Hearts of Iron 4.
Слушайте последние известия с фронта. Красная армия одержала доблестную победу. Слава Красной армии! Враг дрожит от страха на каждом шагу. Он теперь обратился в бегство, в страхе перед нашей неудержимой силой. Вооруженные поезда везут припасы на передовую. СССР и его союзники переходят в массивное наступление. Советские офицеры ведут своих солдат через оборонительные укрепления противника. Наша армия не колеблется и не отступает. Защитники СССР – неудержимые титаны из железа и стали. В бою советские бойцы знают только победу или смерть. В любом случае, герои Красной армии будут вознаграждены честью и славой.
Слышала, бабушка? Он говорит о маме и папе.
Да, малыш, герои Красной армии.
Когда я вырасту, я хочу быть таким, как они.
Нет, малыш, они сражаются, чтобы тебе никогда не пришлось сражаться.